Have you ever stopped yourself from doing something simply because you were worried about what other people might think? Maybe you hesitated to speak your mind. Maybe you avoided pursuing a dream. Maybe you changed your behavior just to fit someone else's expectations. The truth is, many people live their entire lives quietly imprisoned by one invisible fear: the opinions of others. They worry about being judged. They fear criticism. They constantly seek approval from people who may not even understand them. But the ancient Stoic philosophers saw this problem very clearly. They believed that one of the greatest forms of freedom a person can achieve is this: freedom from the need for approval. Because the moment you stop living for other people's opinions, something powerful happens. You begin to think more clearly, you begin to act more confidently, and you finally start living according to your own values instead of someone else's expectations. The Stoics understood that you cannot control what people say about you, what they think about you, or how they judge you, but you can always control how much power you give to their opinions. In this video, we'll explore 9 Stoic rules that will help you stop worrying about what people think and start living with greater confidence, clarity, and inner freedom. Because the moment you stop seeking approval, you begin to reclaim your life. Stoic rule number 1: what others think is not within your control. One of the most liberating ideas in Stoic philosophy is also one of the simplest. You cannot control what other people think about you. Yet many people spend an enormous amount of their lives trying to do exactly that. They carefully choose their words, their actions, even their dreams based on how others might judge them. They worry about criticism. They fear embarrassment. They constantly seek approval. But the Stoics understood something powerful. Other people's opinions are outside your control. No matter how kind, intelligent, or capable you are, there will always be someone who misunderstands you, criticizes you, or disagrees with your choices. And that is simply part of being human. When you try to control the opinions of others, you place your happiness in a position that is fragile and unpredictable. Your peace becomes dependent on something you cannot manage. But when you truly accept that people will think whatever they want, a new kind of freedom appears. You stop trying to impress everyone. You stop fearing judgment. You stop adjusting your life to please people who may not even understand your path. Instead, your focus returns to what truly belongs to you: your values, your actions, and your character. The Stoics believed that your responsibility is not to control how others see you. Your responsibility is simply this: to live with integrity and let people think what they will. Stoic rule number 2: most people are too busy thinking about themselves. One of the great ironies of life is that people often spend years worrying about what others think of them. They imagine that everyone is watching closely, judging their decisions, analyzing their behavior, and forming opinions about every move they make. But in reality, something very different is happening. Most people are far too busy thinking about their own lives to constantly analyze yours. They are worrying about their own problems, their own insecurities, their own future. The Stoics recognized that the human mind naturally turns inward. People spend much of their time thinking about themselves, their struggles, and their concerns. This means that many of the judgments we fear are often exaggerated by our imagination. A moment that feels embarrassing to you may be forgotten by others within minutes. A mistake that feels huge in your mind may barely register in someone else's day. Understanding this can be incredibly freeing. When you realize that the spotlight you fear is mostly an illusion, you begin to relax. You stop overanalyzing every action and every word. Instead of constantly worrying about how others perceive you, you allow yourself to act more naturally and confidently. Because the truth is simple. Most people are not studying your life as closely as you think. They are too busy living their own. Stoic rule number 3. The opinions of others change constantly. Another reason the Stoics warned against seeking approval is that public opinion is incredibly unstable. The same people who praise you today may criticize you tomorrow. Someone who admires your decisions now may disagree with you later. Popular opinion shifts constantly, influenced by emotions, trends, and circumstances. If you build your self-worth on the approval of others, your sense of confidence will rise and fall like waves in the ocean. One day you feel admired, the next day you feel rejected. The Stoics saw this instability clearly. They believed that grounding your life in other people's opinions is like building a house on moving sand. Instead, they encourage people to build their sense of worth on something far more stable, their own principles and character. When your actions are guided by your values rather than by popularity, your direction in life becomes much clearer. You no longer chase approval from every group or every audience. Some people will agree with you, others will not. But your decisions are no longer dependent on shifting opinions. True confidence does not come from universal approval. It comes from knowing that you are living in alignment with your values, even when others disagree. And once you understand that opinions change constantly, their power over your life begins to disappear. Stoic rule number 4. Stop explaining yourself to everyone. Many people feel a constant need to explain their choices. They explain why they chose a certain career, why they made a certain decision, why they live their life in a particular way. It is as if they are standing in front of an invisible court, constantly trying to defend their actions to the world. But Stoic philosophy encourages a different mindset. You are not obligated to justify every decision you make. Of course, there are moments when explanation is appropriate, especially with people you respect or those directly affected by your choices. But the problem arises when you begin explaining yourself to everyone simply to gain approval. The Stoics believed that your life should be guided by your principles, not by the need to convince others that you are right. Many people will misunderstand your decisions. Some will question your path. Others may criticize what they cannot fully see. That is normal. The truth is, no explanation will satisfy everyone. Even the wisest decisions can still be judged by people who see the world differently. Instead of exhausting yourself trying to win universal approval, focus on something far more important: living with integrity. When your actions align with your values, endless explanations become unnecessary. Your life itself becomes the answer, and often the strongest form of confidence is quietly continuing your path without feeling the need to justify it to everyone. Stoic rule number 5. Your value is not determined by public opinion. One of the most dangerous beliefs a person can adopt is the idea that their worth depends on how others perceive them. Many people measure their value based on praise, recognition, or social approval. When others admire them, they feel confident. When criticism appears, their self-esteem collapses. But Stoicism rejects this entirely. The Stoics believe that your value comes from your character, not from public opinion. Your honesty, your discipline, your ability to act with courage and fairness. These are the qualities that define who you truly are. Public opinion, on the other hand, is unpredictable and often shallow. People may admire you for the wrong reasons or criticize you for things they barely understand. If you rely on external approval to define your worth, your confidence will always remain fragile. But when your self-respect is rooted in your own principles, your identity becomes stable. Praise no longer inflates your ego. Criticism no longer destroys your confidence. Instead, you evaluate yourself based on something deeper, whether your actions align with the person you want to become. The Stoics believe that true self-respect comes from living according to virtue, not from collecting admiration. Because at the end of the day, the most important judgment is not the one made by the crowd, it is the one made by your own conscience. Stoic rule number 6. Criticism often reveals more about them than about you. When people criticize you, the first instinct is often to take their words personally. You may feel attacked, misunderstood, or unfairly judged. But Stoic philosophy encourages a powerful shift in perspective. Very often, criticism says more about the person giving it than about the person receiving it. People speak through the lens of their own experiences, fears, insecurities, and beliefs. Someone who feels insecure may criticize others to feel superior. Someone who is frustrated with their own life may project negativity onto those around them. This does not mean that all criticism should be ignored. Sometimes criticism contains valuable insight. A wise person listens carefully and evaluates whether there is truth within it. But the Stoics taught that you should never allow criticism to automatically define your self-worth. Instead, pause and examine it calmly. Is this feedback helpful? Is it constructive? Or is it simply an emotional reaction from someone else's struggles? When you develop this level of awareness, criticism loses much of its power over you. And once you understand this, something important changes. You stop fearing criticism, because you realize that not every opinion deserves space in your mind. Stoic rule number 7. The people who judge you do not live your life. One of the most important realizations you can have is this: the people who judge your life do not live your life. They do not wake up with your responsibilities. They do not face your struggles. They do not carry the consequences of your decisions. And yet, many people allow the opinions of others to shape the direction of their entire lives. They hesitate to pursue meaningful goals because someone might disapprove. They stay in situations that make them unhappy because they fear criticism. They silence their true thoughts because they worry about judgment. But the Stoics understood something deeply important. Everyone sees your life from the outside. They see fragments, they see assumptions, they see pieces of the story. But only you understand the full picture. This is why allowing others to dictate your path is dangerous. Their opinions are often based on incomplete understanding. The Stoic approach is simple but powerful. Listen respectfully when others offer advice. Consider perspectives that may contain wisdom, but in the end, remember this: you are the one who must live with the results of your decisions, not the crowd. And once you fully understand that, the weight of other people's judgment begins to lose its power. Stoic rule number 8. Live according to your values, not their expectations. Many people unconsciously build their lives around the expectations of others. They choose careers that impress people. They pursue goals that bring approval. They shape their identity based on what society considers successful. But when your life is built around external expectations, something important is lost: your authenticity. The Stoics believe that a meaningful life must be guided by personal values rather than by social pressure. Your values act like an internal compass. They help you decide what matters, what deserves your effort, and what kind of person you want to become. When your decisions are guided by values instead of approval, something powerful happens. Your life becomes clearer. You stop chasing validation from everyone around you. You stop trying to please every audience. Instead, you focus on living with honesty, discipline, courage, and integrity. Of course, this path is not always comfortable. Sometimes living according to your values means disappointing others. But Stoicism reminds us of something important. It is far better to live a life that is true to yourself than to live a life designed to satisfy the expectations of others, because approval from the crowd is temporary, but self-respect lasts much longer. Stoic rule number 9. Freedom begins when you stop seeking approval. At the heart of Stoic philosophy lies a powerful idea. True freedom begins the moment you stop seeking approval from everyone. As long as your happiness depends on other people's opinions, you will never feel fully free. You will constantly adjust your behavior to gain praise. You will hesitate before expressing your true thoughts. You will worry about criticism, even from people whose opinions do not truly matter. This creates a quiet form of emotional dependence. Your confidence rises when people approve of you, and it falls when they do not. The Stoics believe that this cycle can only be broken by shifting your focus inward. Instead of asking, "Do people approve of me?" ask a more powerful question: "Am I living according to my principles?" When your sense of direction comes from your values rather than public opinion, your confidence becomes far more stable. You stop chasing approval, you stop fearing criticism, and you begin to act with greater clarity and courage. Ironically, when you stop desperately seeking approval, people often begin to respect you more, because confidence rooted in self-awareness is far more powerful than confidence built on praise. And once you understand this, something remarkable happens. You realize that freedom was never something others could give you. It was something you had to reclaim for yourself. Conclusion. In the end, Stoicism teaches us a powerful truth about freedom. Most people spend their lives trapped in an invisible cage, the constant need for approval. They worry about being judged, misunderstood, or criticized. They shape their choices around the expectations of others, often forgetting to ask themselves what they truly want. But the Stoics understood something that can completely transform the way you live. Other people's opinions are not your responsibility. You cannot control what people think. You cannot control what they say about you. And you certainly cannot control how they choose to judge your life. What you can control is something far more important. You can control your values. You can control your actions. You can control the kind of person you choose to become. And when your life begins to align with your principles rather than with public approval, something remarkable happens. You become calmer, more confident, more authentic. You stop chasing validation from the crowd, and instead you build something much more powerful: self-respect. Because the truth is simple. The moment you stop living for other people's opinions, you begin living for your own purpose. Now, I'm curious about your perspective. Out of these 9 Stoic rules, which one resonated with you the most? Was it realizing that you cannot control what others think? Understanding that public opinion constantly changes? Or discovering that true freedom begins when you stop seeking approval? Let me know in the comments below. I always enjoy reading your thoughts and experiences. And if you enjoy content about Stoicism, mental strength, and personal growth, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you won't miss the next videos. Thank you for watching, and remember, the less you care about opinions, the more power you gain over your own life. I'll see you in the next video.